Madam Speaker, to ask Honourable Minister of Industry, Commerce and Consumer Protection whether, in regard to the supply of petroleum products through emergency procurement for an amount of some 14 billion rupees, he will, for the benefit of the House, obtain from the State Trading Corporation information as to A, name of the respective suppliers for clean petroleum products and dirty petroleum products, respectively, period covered by the contracts, C, relative prices, premium and freight rates for clean petroleum products and dirty petroleum products, respectively, and D, basis on which negotiations were held with the lowest bidders.
Madam Speaker, the contract for the supply of petroleum products between the State Trading Corporation and Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited expired on 31st July 2019. In this respect, on 25th March 2019, the STC launched a tender for the supply of 915,000 metric tons of clean petroleum products and 325,000 metric tons of dirty petroleum products for the period 1st August 2019 to 31st July 2020 on both FOB, free on board, and DAP, delivery at place basis. 11 bidders submitted their offers, out of which 9 were for clean petroleum products and 8 were for dirty petroleum products. Following the evaluation exercise, the most competitive, substantially responsive bids were from Vitol Bahrain EC for clean petroleum products and PetroChina International Singapore Pte. Limited for dirty petroleum products. In parallel, on 3rd May 2019, the STC also launched tenders for contract of affreightment for the transport of petroleum products should tender for the supply of the products be allocated on a FOB basis. On 22nd May 2019, the board of the STC approved the award for supply of clean petroleum products to Vitol Bahrain EC and to PetroChina International Singapore Pte. Limited for dirty petroleum products. However, on 31st May 2019, the Supreme Court, in the case of STC versus Betamax Limited, set aside the arbitration award of the Singapore International Arbitration Center and provided guidance on the application of the Public Procurement Act. In the wake of the judgment of the Supreme Court, the STC sought the advice of the State Law Office on the procurement proceedings to be followed by the STC. The SLO advised that the STC has to follow the provisions of the PPA. On 7 June 2019, STC had a meeting with the Central Procurement Board to discuss the procedures to be followed under the PPA. A timeline for launching of the tender for supply of petroleum products was defined as per the provisions of the PPA, and the process worked out to last over a period of about 6 months. Considering that the contract for procurement of petroleum products with MRPL would expire on 31st July 2019, and to avoid any shortage of petroleum products, the board of the STC on 10 June 2019 approved that A, STC annuls the tender exercises for the supply of clean and dirty petroleum products launched on 25th March 2019 and for contract of affreightment for these products launched on 3rd May 2019. B, STC carries out an emergency procurement for the period 1st August 2019 to 31st January 2020 in accordance with the Section 21(3)(b) of the PPA, that is the Public Procurement Act, which stipulates life or the quality of life or environment may be seriously compromised. C, negotiations be carried out with the lowest substantially responsive bidders in the tender exercise launched on 25th March 2019, which are Vitol Bahrain EC for clean petroleum products and PetroChina International Singapore Pte Limited for dirty petroleum products. And D, the panel for the negotiations be composed of representatives from the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Consumer Protection, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, the Central Procurement Board, and the State Trading Corporation. On 17 June 2019, STC attended a meeting at the Central Procurement Board to discuss on the process for the emergency procurement exercise. The CPB informed that in line with the provisions of the PPA, they cannot participate in any negotiation exercises. This would tantamount to being judge and party. However, in line with Circular 15 of 2008, issued by PPO, the CPB agreed to assist STC and guide them on the negotiation process. The CPB further requested the STC to prepare a strategy paper for the negotiations and to submit same for clearance. Given that MRPL has been the supplier of the STC since 2006, it was proposed that MRPL also be invited to participate in the negotiation process. And the CPB had no objection to the proposal, as this would enhance competition. Following discussions with the CPB, the strategy paper was finalized and approved by the CPB on 21st June 2019. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A of the question, I am informed by the STC that the negotiating panel held meetings with Vitol Bahrain EC and MRPL for clean petroleum products and with PetroChina International Singapore Pte Limited and MRPL for dirty petroleum products at the seat of the STC on 25th and 26th June 2019. The negotiation panel recommended that the contract for the supply of clean petroleum products for the 6 months period be awarded to Vitol Bahrain EC, and that the contract for dirty petroleum products be awarded to PetroChina International Singapore Pte Limited. Madam Speaker, as regards Part B, the contracts are for a 6 months period from 1st August 2019 to 31st January 2020. Regarding Part C of the question, there is a confidentiality clause in the contracts between the State Trading Corporation and the two suppliers, which prohibits disclosure of sensitive and commercial information to third parties. However, Madam Speaker, in a spirit of transparency, I wish to inform the House that prices of petroleum products fluctuate constantly every day on the international market. The basis of pricing in the contracts is Platts posting, which are widely known and available. As regards the freight rates, I wish to inform the House that as the contracts with the two suppliers are on a DAP basis, delivery at port, at place, freight rates are not available as they are included in the supply price. With respect to premium, as per the confidentiality clause in the contracts, the figures cannot be disclosed. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part D of the question, the premiums quoted by the most competitive, substantially responsive bidders in the tender exercise launched on 25th March 2019 were used as starting point for the negotiations. After negotiations, the suppliers agreed to reduce their premiums for both clean and dirty petroleum products by around 40 million rupees for the 6 months period. I also wish to inform the House that compared to the proposal of MRPL for the supply of both clean and dirty petroleum products, procurement from the two selected suppliers, namely Vitol Bahrain EC and Petro China International Singapore Pte Limited, represents a savings of around 309 million rupees for the 6 months period.
Yes, I must say I'm for once pleasantly surprised that at least we have the names of the suppliers which the Honourable Minister had refused to provide to this House only a few weeks ago, and which I thought quite unacceptable. Let me ask the Honourable Minister, as far as the strategy paper of the CPB, can he table this paper, please?
Well, first of all, I wish to reply to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that when the PQ was asked last time, I didn't say that I would not give the names, but I said at a later stage, for reasons which I explained, the way Betamax has reacted in the past. But now that the contract with MRPL is over, that's why I have been able to provide the names. Well, I have the strategy paper for the emergency procurement, Madam Speaker, but I would like, first of all, to seek advice before laying on the table of the National Assembly, because there are figures which I just mentioned are very sensitive commercially.
I'd like to remind the Honourable Minister that he is dealing with public money. On what basis has he taken it on himself or the government to include a confidentiality clause in a contract where since 1982 there has been no confidentiality clauses in such contracts apart from the G2G with Mangalore?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has been in government in the past. He has been Deputy Prime Minister. He knows very well how the contract of MRPL was, the G2G contract. There was confidentiality clause. Now, I must say that the confidentiality clause between the two suppliers and STC, this has been proposed by the suppliers. And it is clear, I can table a copy of that clause if the Honourable Leader wants to have a look at it. Because it says the buyer and the supplier shall keep confidential and shall not, without the written consent of the other party hereto, divulge to any third party any documents, data, or information furnished directly or indirectly by the other party thereto in connection with the contract, whether such information has been furnished prior to, during, or following completion or termination of the contract. Well, it goes on with several conditions on that.
I'd like to perhaps remind the Minister that when the MRPL contract was signed, the then Leader of the Opposition was invited, I don't know if he went, was invited by government to consult even the confidential clauses of the contract. Is he aware of that?
Well, at that time, it's difficult for me to say that I'm aware or not, because it happened quite some time back. But again, I say, I will seek advice of the SLO, of the parties concerned, and in case they tell me that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition can come and have a look at the contract, well, he will be most welcome.
I'm not asking for myself, I'm just saying, Madam Speaker, that I find it unacceptable, this confidentiality clause. I'd like to also know, Minister, whether the CPB has been consulted with regard to that confidentiality clause, and if so, can you give us their response, please?
Speaker, I don't have that information with me. Maybe if officers who are present here can advise me. In the meantime, if there's any other question.
I take it that you have not consulted the CPB with regard to this confidentiality clause. Let me answer.
The answer is no, Madam Speaker.
The CPB has not been consulted with regard to a contract that you have signed for 14 billion rupees Is that so? Although you consulted the CPB for a strategy paper? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. And as I said, there are two suppliers. They have their own conditions because they do not supply only Mauritius. They supply throughout the whole world. And we have negotiated with them to have a better price than what we ought to have paid. And of course, I don't think that they would wish that these figures be made public. And I must say that in the tender documents that were launched included a confidentiality clause that was vetted by the State Law Office.
Madam Speaker, we're not talking about State Law Office, we're talking about the Central Procurement Board, and you know now that the STC has no longer the right to issue such large contracts beyond 100 million rupees without going to the CPB. So this is why I'm asking why the Honourable Minister did not think it wise, given the court judgment and given all the issues concerning integrity in the signing of contracts, that he did not clear this crucial issue, which is now blocking democracy now, why he did not clear that with the CPB.
Speaker, I already replied concerning the supplier's conditions for the confidentiality clause. But I must say, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is today in this August Assembly talking about transparency and all, but what happened in 2009? Who signed the contract between MRPL, between STC and Betamax? Who gave approval for that? And that is the consequences that we are facing today. We have had a judgment in the Supreme Court, and a judgment which has shown that the contract itself was illegal. And from there on, now we are taking actions, corrective actions, so that in the future, nothing as such was done in the past years with the previous government will be done again.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the Honourable Minister that on the 4th and 5th, I think, of February, he attended a press conference. 2015 I'm talking about, 4 years ago, where it was said quite clearly, and I quote from two newspapers if you don't want to believe one, le fait que l'octroi du contrat et les signatures n'aient pas été avalisés par le CPB, and this is what you stated in that conference, made the contract illegal. That was 4 years ago. So I'm going to ask why STC, 4 years later, issued tender documents, requested for prices, etc., against what you yourself as their minister had said in a press conference 4 years earlier.
Madam Speaker, we have gone through all the procedures that have been advised to us. We haven't done anything, STC hasn't done anything just by itself. There has been consultations with all parties concerned. There has been consultation with the SLO. And as the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is talking about press conference, he also made a press conference sometime back in 2017. What did he say when STC was asked to pay a big amount for the arbitration? J'avais supplié mes anciens collègues de ne pas aller dans cette direction. And what did he say? And what did he say when there was a judgment of the Supreme Court? La population est soulagée. Donc, Madame la Présidente, on fait des conférences de presse avec les informations qu'on a à un certain moment. And now that the judgment has fallen, we are taking action so that in the future, nothing happens as it used to happen in the past.
Speaker, I still hope that Betamax will lose in the Privy Council, but that's another issue. Here, you yourself went to say that STC was not legally authorized to ask for tenders for petroleum products and ancillary services without going to the CPB. I will table these two press cuttings, Madam Speaker. I would like then clearly to ask the Minister, since you clearly knew that the STC was illegal in its action, how, as Minister of Commerce, responsible for STC, you allowed it on the 23rd of March to issue and ask for tenders for 28 billion rupees worth of goods in contravention to what you yourself said in that press conference?
Contravention to what I said. But, Madam Speaker, the judgment, we had the judgment on 31st May. It is following that judgment that we were made aware that STC should have followed the procedures set out by the PPO and in the PPA. And I think the judgment supersedes not only what I said some time back, but what everybody has been saying since there was a contract between the STC and Betamax. So the judgment is here, and we are, I said, taking remedial measures so that such things do not occur again in the future.
Since you yourself had said that it was illegal, as Minister responsible for STC, ought you not to have issued them instructions? Even the highly paid general manager will come to the website in a moment of the STC. Ought you not to have issued instructions under STC, your responsibility, you answer in Parliament, for them not to act illegally as you had gone to a press conference and stated?
I already replied, Madam Speaker, to this question. The Leader of the Opposition is asking the same question each time, and I already gave my explanation.
Speaker, is the Honourable Minister aware? We understand that the CEO of the STC gets 400,000 rupees, higher than most of us here in Parliament. That the STC website today, this morning, still shows that it is exempt from the provisions of the Public Procurement Act. Do you know that it still shows that? So many years after what you said, and even after the judgment, and people will consult that website all over the world?
I will check, Madam Speaker. I can't reply now for that.
I assure you that this is the case, Madam Speaker. Now, let's talk about the prices paid. Because, you know, we always say that it is based on Platts, etc. But we are not, Honourable Minister, buying crude, are we, petroleum? We are buying refined products. So the difference between crude and refined products, as everybody knows, is a hefty premium that is paid to the supplier for refining and for his markup. Now, we know that the premium for Mangalore was around $30. Now, can you tell us, and this is therefore not a variable price, as you stated, it is a fixed price, I presume, over the whole 6-month contract. And it comes to hundreds of millions of rupees. So I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister, in the spirit of transparency, can you tell us what is the premium over and above the Platts reference price that you mentioned that is payable to, is it PetroChina and Vitol, please?
First of all, Madam Speaker, the Platts for refined product is also published and available. It's not that only the crude is published and available, it's also for refined products. And concerning the second part of the question which the Leader of the Opposition asked, I said that globally, STC is today making a savings of around 309 million rupees for the 6 months period that is going to come, compared to what we ought to have paid to MRPL in case we had recourse to the supply of products from MRPL. Well, as I said, I'm not in a position to give the amount, the quantum of the premiums, even for what we used to pay at MRPL, nor for the new suppliers, Vitol and PetroChina.
Speaker, does the Honourable Minister agree that had this contract gone through CPB, all these figures would have automatically been published? As is normal case, so any CPB contract?
I repeat, Madam Speaker, we have done everything with advice from the State Law Office. There have been massive consultations, and we are here today in this Parliament giving figures that nobody could give in the past when there was a contract with MRPL. And if we are here today, it's because this government had the courage to stop having recourse to the tanker of Betamax. And I think we should pray to God that we have reached here. And in the future, we are sure that in the future such contracts won't be signed again.
Leader of Opposition, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you. Fine is fine. Madam Speaker, and as my colleagues, I don't know if they want to take part. Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister, we ourselves campaigned at the eve of the general election, when the Parliament was mostly closed for that year, against the purchase of big aircraft by Air Mauritius, and against the, what was the other one? There were two, and the Metro Express, sorry, whatever it was called then. Now, at the eve of this election also, you are refusing on the pretense or the reason being the confidentiality contract, when Parliament, we presume, is about to close, to provide information in the same way that the previous government, which you are blaming, which I was not part of at that time, refused to provide information to the House, and the House was closed.
I don't know if we are on the eve of the elections. Well, I said that we have a confidentiality clause which has been put in the contract by the supplier, and I explain why there is that confidentiality clause. I explain how we are benefiting from lower rates from these two suppliers, and they do not want this to be public because they supply throughout the world. I've given the explanation, Madam Speaker.
It is totally unusual for this confidentiality clause when you're using public money for a contract of this sort, and this also we must be clear of. Can I ask the Honourable Minister whether, since the prices he had obtained from the bidding exercise were for the 1 year, now they have been reduced to the 6 months, and I'm talking basically about the premium, whether the premium that has been now obtained, how does it compare to the original premium that had been quoted for the 1 year contract?
Well, of course, after negotiations, as I said, the suppliers agreed to reduce their premiums for both clean and dirty petroleum products by around 40 million rupees for the 6 months period.
I asked finally, Madam Speaker, whether, well, I'll ask this in fact. I will ask Madam Speaker whether CPB, which will now issue the new contract, hopefully with all the transparency that is required, has the new tenders for the full year supply been issued by the CPB, and if not, why not?
The new tenders are being finalized. As I said, that we had a period of 6 months, including the preparation of the tender documents, the launching of the tenders, and of course the evaluation till the procurement. And the documents are being finalized, and new tenders will be issued, of course, with the concurrence of Central Procurement Board, I think very soon.
As we have some time, I would like to ask, as we have some time, whether the Minister can inform us whether you have dealt directly with PetroChina and Vitol, or whether there have been any intermediaries, brokers, or anything in between these two.
No, there haven't been any brokers, Madam Speaker. Tenders have been launched, and evaluation have been carried out, and we know what happened with the judgment of the Supreme Court. Negotiations were carried out. But as I said, Madam Speaker, I repeat once more that we are not repeating what the previous government has been doing. We are acting as a good government in the interest of our citizens. And with the way we have proceeded, we have a minimum savings of 300 million rupees in the procurement of the petroleum products. And, well, I've already replied.
Honorable Adrian Duval.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, can I ask the Minister, how does he explain now to this House that this contract has been given in emergency, direct procurement, that you have included a non-confidentiality clause, therefore the Parliament cannot be apprised of the terms, while if it goes to the CPB, not only is everything public, but it is challengeable. So how does the Minister now reconcile that? And whether or not, doesn't he think that he's doing even worse than what was done before, given that he has willingly put the confidentiality clause?
Madam Speaker, I've already replied to that question. I don't think that I'll repeat again and again.